Sunday, Ron and Lucy made love as they usually did on Sunday mornings. Neither of them liked the routine for its own sake, but it suited the rhythm of their week. Of course, they made love at other times as well, but for some reason Ron Coleman always woke up on Sunday morning. It was a rather lazy day, which made for a long session. Lucy liked it too, and she knew that sex always put him in a good mood. So while she was lounging under a warm shower, he, God bless him, was in the kitchen making coffee and a big breakfast. He was already nearing climax. His buddies at work called it the vinegar punch, apparently something to do with the expression on the man's face. Lucy finished at the same time as him, and they cuddled for a while longer before he got out of bed. He pulled on a pair of old joggers and a sweater and went downstairs. No need for a shower. He needed to mow the back lawn. He could tidy up later. Everything but the eggs were ready. They took very little time at all. When Lucy came downstairs, he asked how many she wanted. As he watched two of each go into the frying pan, his thoughts wandered. The heat, finishing things. Was she really faking her ecstasy this morning? Something wasn't right, and Lucy seemed somehow different. He shrugged, spread scrambled eggs on 2 plates, and they ate breakfast. Lucy gathered their underwear in the bedroom and put it in the washing machine. There were already a few things in there. She never understood why laundry baskets were needed. Things were thrown in them and forgotten, so the two of them shoved all the dirty clothes right into the machine. From there, it was just as easy to sort them. Ron knew the rules. If a thing wasn't in the machine, it wasn't washed. The only exception was Sunday morning. After making sure nothing was missing, she put the laundry in and put the machine on delicate wash. It didn't take long, and when it was done, she put the heavy stuff in and turned the machine back on, but she left the wet underwear in the laundry basket. Ron was still mowing the lawn and the grass clippings were flying everywhere. After lunch, Ron got out of the shower and dried himself. As he was wiping his hair with a towel, he heard a noise. It was the water still swirling in the drain in the corner of the stall. It was taking too long to flush, and Ron had realized long ago that it wasn't very efficient. But he only thought about that when he was in the bathroom. He promised himself that he would remember to buy some drain cleaner on Monday. That night they lay in bed, cuddled together, and suddenly there was the sound of rain hitting the window. "Shit," Lucy said. "What happened?" "I forgot to wash both things." "Well, I'm not going to go after her. I might as well not have asked you to." There was sarcasm in her voice. "I had a buddy who went to live in Australia. He said that when rain is forecast, they put the washing machine out. They think it rinses everything better that way." "Really?" "Good for them." Monday. "Oh, you're looking very fashionable today, boss. I've never seen you in red socks before." "I was hoping no one would notice, Jen," Ron said to his secretary. "All my regular black socks are still soaking on the washing machine. I should get new ones. These are my old soccer socks, and they've been worn 2 days in a row, but I won't tell you that. No, Mr. Coleman, I think you're embarrassed. It's just that I always thought businessmen should wear black socks. There seems to be a law about it." "Well, if you never wear red again, I'll have to tell the girls in the office. They'll all want to see it. Don't you dare. I'll send you to buy me black socks if you do. You can try, but I didn't hear you. I'll probably come with bright yellow ones." Of course, Ron had to relive the morning when giggling girls peeked through his office door. Ron didn't approve of red socks in the office, but he couldn't see what was so funny about them. So during lunch, he bought 2 more pairs of black ones, but when he stopped to think about it, he decided not to wear them after all. The excitement would pass after lunch, but if Jan saw that he had actually decided to change them, and she did, the giggling would start again. He looked at his purchase. Buying things. He remembered. He went in search of something to clear the clog in the shower. "What have you got there?" Lucy asked. "It's an economy-grade drain cleaner. It's supposed to smell like pine." "Our shower doesn't drain well." "Can't say I've noticed." "Well, it's annoying me, so I've decided to deal with it. And while I'm at it, I'll clean all the toilets and sinks." "Okay." Ron stood in the shower room looking at the round metal lid in the corner. He knew that since the last time he had been there, it had shifted a bit, so it wouldn't go up until it was set exactly level. He would have to go and find some tweezers. He hated this job, so better finish it now before he got busy with the rest of the house. After much swearing and fiddling with the tweezers, he leveled the top disc and freed it. Setting it aside, he used the tweezers again and carefully pulled out the plastic trap net. What was stuck in it was, as always, disgusting. He took both pieces, leaned over the toilet bowl, and began shoveling out the crap. "I don't get it," he muttered. "Only hair should be stuck in here, so why does it always look like shit?" In the future, he promised himself that he would brush his hair when rinsing and pull whatever he could get his hands on off the comb. Then he could throw it straight into the sink. Less clogs for the drain. Lucy wouldn't do that, but the fewer times he had to do the job, the better. Ron collected the brown clumps from the underside of the lid and tossed them into the pan. When it was more or less free of hair, Ron tossed it into the sink. He'd polish off both culprits with a nail brush. He was peeling the sticky brown mass off the plastic trap when he suddenly stopped. He had a clump of black hairs in his hands. His hair was brown, while Lucy's was blonde and long. Had anyone else used that shower? Looking closer, he realized they were short and curly. "Jesus," he said aloud, "what if this is it?" With a violent shake of his wrist, he flicked the whole thing down the toilet and flushed. After washing both discs and replacing them on the shower floor, he wiped his hands. He wondered if he should ask Lucy about it. Obviously, he suspected it might be evidence of an affair, so the conversation would have to be easy. But how to phrase the question so as not to give himself away? No, he didn't want her to know about what he'd found. Of course, it could have been some woman's hair. He mentally went through their list of male and female friends. Some had black hair, and one or two had quite curly hair. But he couldn't imagine why any of them would want to use this shower. He poured some product into the sink and toilet. While he poured some product into the kitchen sink, Lucy asked him to wash the washing machine. Not the machine itself, but the place where the hose comes out through the floor. "Sometimes it smells a little bit in there." Ron pulled it away from the wall, pulled out the drain hose, and poured more cleaner into the hole. Then, he went around the house, flushing and turning on the shower and taps. Feeling satisfied with the job he had done, he returned to the washing machine. Pouring a kettle of warm water down the drain, he could hear Lucy upstairs commenting on how nice everything smelled. He slid it into place and paused. He had read stories about cheating wives and now wondered if he was married to one. The husbands in those stories had to check to see if their wives had recently bought sexy lingerie, especially if they were trying to hide it. They also kept an eye out for suspicious stains on their panties. Through the glass door, he could see Lucy's panties awaiting their next delicate wash. If she really did have a lover and he was using their bathroom, then she was entertaining him in this house. He pulled out her panties and examined them closely. There was only one pair, and they were suspicious. There was a crusty stain on them. It could have come from her, but there was quite a lot of it. Ron sniffed them, but couldn't distinguish anything special and certainly no black hairs. They were black and lacy, and Ron had never seen these before. She didn't order things like this online, so Ron didn't know how to check when or where she'd bought them. In any case, the fact that they were strangers wasn't particularly strange. He wasn't in the habit of checking her underwear, though maybe he should have. No, what was strange was that there were panties here at all. Lucy had washed everything yesterday. The sun had peeked out this afternoon and it was all still on the line. So why had she changed her panties when she got home? Or had she changed them at work? She usually took her panties off before going to bed. Was she really walking around without panties now? He doubted it. Another thought struck him. She must have taken the pair off a few hours ago, perhaps at lunchtime. Did she wear the sexy panties, especially for some lover, and bring him here at noon, and then change into casual ones and go back to work? He watched carefully as she undressed that evening. She took off a pair of simple pastel-colored panties that were more than a stained black pair. He lay awake for a while. He should have let her spend more time with this guy where he could watch their actions. If, of course, the black-haired lover existed. Tuesday. "I'm going away on a business trip tomorrow, babe," he said. "I've got a problem to sort out at our Norwich branch, and I'm staying overnight. I should be home Thursday night." "You surely can't come back tomorrow?" "I'm afraid not. I'll still be working on it Thursday morning." When Ron got home that evening, he heard Lucy ending the phone call. "Save the wear and tear on the springs, and you won't be the one doing the laundry." "Is everything all right?" he asked. She looked a little flushed and frantically stuffed the phone back into her purse. Sure, and why wouldn't it be? No reason. It wasn't long before she told him her news. He wasn't surprised. "Instead of sitting at home while you're away, I'm going out tomorrow night." "That's very good, Ronnie. You wouldn't have been able to come anyway." Alarm bells rang in her head. She only called him Ronnie when she needed something. Usually it was something she felt guilty about. "Why couldn't I come over? Are you on a date with a tall, dark, handsome lover?" Ron grinned to show he wasn't joking, but a wry smile flashed across Lucy's face. "No, of course not." "Don't be silly." Do you remember my friend Sandy Williamson? The little babe, a little musky, she lives in a one-room apartment in Lurch's Manor. And I don't like being called stupid. Yes, that's her. She went on a dating site and agreed to meet a man. Then she got nervous and asked her brother Jack to take her along as a chaperone. Jack agreed and turned down the night cards. Jack is married to Lisa, isn't he? I asked. They have a baby boy. Yes, on Wednesdays Jack plays poker with his buddies, and on Thursdays Lisa has drinks with her coworkers. They don't really like separate nights, but Lisa says the baby is too young for a babysitter. Anyway, my friend Sandy panicked. Suddenly she thought, how is she going to meet this new man with her brother hanging around? She didn't want to tell Jack she changed her mind. After all, he'd already gone to a lot of trouble to help her, so she asked me. Asked you what? If I go and make a foursome, it'll look more natural. She and her date can get to know each other better, and Jack and I will pretend. And if it looks like they're doing well, we can say it's time for us to leave. That's why we couldn't invite you. 5 people on a date would look ridiculous. I think it's all too complicated. She should have just asked you and me to go with her. That's exactly what she said, but now it's too late, and you wouldn't have been able to go anyway. So while I'm toiling away in the middle of boring Norfolk, you're hanging out with handsome Jack? You know it's not like that. Jack would never have an affair, and I could never do that to Lisa. Maybe she was right. At any rate, Jack Williamson had brown hair, more like Ron's. Where is this foursome gathering? We're having dinner and drinks at the Lakeview Hotel. It's expensive, so I think the guy wants to impress Sandy. Who's paying for your dinner? Not that it matters. Jack. Actually, if Sandy's boyfriend had known about the chaperone situation from the beginning, he could have ordered dinner through Jack. He worked hard for Lakeview and probably could have gotten a discount. He did. Don't tell me the mystery man made reservations in case he got lucky, joked Ron. I doubt that very much. I think Sandy said he lives on the other side of town, so he won't be traveling far. And he's hardly counting on a first date. He's seen Sandy's pictures, have you? Good point. I wouldn't put my hand up Sandy's dress on about the 10th date. Ron waited until Sandy went to bed and checked the washing machine. There was a pink thong lying there. Jesus, did she really sleep with some guy every day? His marriage was going downhill and someone had to get hurt. He walked over to the bed and noticed a white cotton pair on the floor. 2 pairs again. Wednesday. Ron went on his fictitious trip. He hadn't thought about divorce yet. He hadn't thought about anything at all until he was sure of what was going on. The problem was that if Lucy brought the tall, dark-haired, handsome man to the house, it was unlikely they would go there tonight. He gave her the option of spending the whole night. After she left for work, he went back to the house. He hadn't slept well last night and needed sleep, just in case he slept in the guest room. He woke up at 3 in the morning. No one was there. She would come home from work, shower, change her clothes, and then leave for dinner. He should keep an eye on the house in case she brought home a man for quick sex, although that was unlikely. He parked around the corner of the house and crossed the road to a tree that could hide him for a while. There was no perfect spot, but he would be able to see if she brought anyone home. Finally, Lucy arrived and entered the house, alone. Ron waited 15 minutes and went back to the car. He ate at KFC and then got a room at the Lakeview. He could watch the foursome and then see where Lucy went. When he checked into the hotel, he was surprised to find that they still had the old-style cash register working. He checked in and admired the beautiful leather-bound book. They did everything else on the computer, so that book was probably kept just for show. In his room, he waited until 5, hooked up to an outside line, and called home. Hey babe, I'm in my room, but I have to go back to the office again tonight. Work is taking a lot longer than I expected. At this rate, I might not get home until Friday. Oh no, please tell me if that happens, won't you? Sure, I'll call you at work tomorrow lunchtime and let you know either way. So what hotels are there in Norfolk? Ron looked around his room. About the same as here, I mean over there. Well, I'm already getting ready to go out, she said. Yeah, have fun on your date? I will, but it's not really a date. If Harold and Sandy work things out, we'll probably end up pretty late. Harold? It's her date, silly. Ron sat at the hotel bar, drinking a pint of beer. He saw the front door and was about to hide out of sight when they arrived. This Harold would probably arrive first. He wanted to make a good impression and be in place before the date. He wondered if Harold knew there would be 4 of them. Surely Sandy must have warned him. Assuming Jack didn't know about Lucy's affair, They'd probably use a cab. And Lucy wouldn't fail to invite Jack for a nightcap, and Sandy too, if she didn't stay out late with her beau. Lucy would probably call her lover after they left. He hoped the affair wouldn't go on too late. Lucy had said on the phone that if all went well, she might come home late. But why? If Sandy was arranging her date, there was no need for Lucy and Jack to linger. Surely they would leave early and leave the newfound lovers alone. His musings were interrupted by a voice from the reception area. "Good evening, I'm Harold Miller. I have a double room reserved." Ron heard the receptionist confirm the reservation. "Welcome to the Lakeview, sir. Here's your key." Could this be his Harold with a room? If he lives across town, he must be confident that he'll be able to hook up with the shy Sandy. Ron got to his feet, but in his haste, he knocked over his bar stool. He fell at the feet of the customer sitting behind him, who jumped back and spilled some of his beer. "Sorry, buddy," Ron said. "That's all right." "Here," said the bartender. "Let me top you up, sir." Ron felt obliged to wait. "How much egg?" he asked the bartender. "Don't worry about that, sir. It's free." When Ron reached the front desk, Harold had already left. He looked at the elevators. One had just stopped on the 3rd floor. "What can I do for you, sir?" The receptionist asked. "No, thank you. I thought I recognized Harold Miller's voice. I'm supposed to meet him tonight." "That's the name of the gentleman who just checked in. He's in 306, if you need to speak to him." She picked up the phone. "No, that's okay. I'll meet him for dinner later." Ron went back to the bar and finished his beer. He went to the gentleman's where he peed and gathered his thoughts. If Sandy's boyfriend really did live nearby, a cab home would be cheaper than an overnight stay. If it was him, what made him think he could score with Sandy? And why did he have to book a room at an expensive hotel? An impressive dinner, yes, but they could have had sex at Sandy's house. Perhaps she had recently come out of her shell and sent him nude pictures of herself. But no, if that was the case, she would already be ready for sex tonight and would hardly want an escort. There was something unrealistic about it. Ron went back to the bar and ordered another pint. He only had time to take a sip before he heard a familiar voice. "Let's take a seat in that booth over there. We've got time for a quick drink." It was Harold again. Ron turned and saw him walking across the bar. With him were Sandy, her brother Jack, and Lucy. Ron quickly turned away. Damn, where had they come from? He must not have noticed their appearance while he was in the restroom. And Harold was black. It was an unexpected choice for nervous little Sandy. He hunched his shoulders and hoped it was Harold who approached the bar. Any of the others would have recognized him. He got lucky. "So what do you two want to drink?" "We'll have a G&T and a Guinness, please." Jack ordered Lucy's usual gin and tonic, a boon she was his companion. Women get so excited when you're at the bar asking them what they want. He probably checked it out in the cab. So hadn't Sandy been drinking anything? Ron watched him approach in the mirror. He was a big, handsome guy, and it was obvious what Sandy saw in him. When the drinks were paid for, he asked for a tray. Ron watched him walk toward their booth, and then he experienced a new shock. Ron was determined to see for himself what he was seeing and ventured toward them. Halfway there, he stepped behind a column and watched them, trying to make sense of what was before his eyes. The bench they had chosen formed the shape of a C, and the two girls were sitting together facing him. And Jack, sitting on one of the shorter sides, found himself sitting next to his sister. It was rather odd to bring chaperones, but Sandy didn't even sit next to her companion. Harold handed over the drinks and settled down next to Lucy, very close to Lucy. And there were 4 drinks, not 3. Both girls had GS and TS. Looking at them, one would have guessed that Jack was drinking with his sister and Harold was drinking with Lucy, a black man with black curly hair. That's exactly what he saw. Everything fell into place. It was Harold's hair in the drain. Ron pulled out his phone and turned on the videotape. If Lucy was with her black lover, why were they at the hotel? They usually did it at Ron's house. A memory flashed through his brain. Saving wear and tear on the springs. And you wouldn't be the one doing the laundry. So they planned to spend the night together in room 306. Then they wouldn't have to wash the soiled linens. Then why did they need Jack and his sister? Harold proposed a toast. "I hope the 4 of us continue to have all the things we enjoy so much, even if not always in such stylish surroundings," Jack added. They only touched glasses in their pairings. The hiding place Ron was hiding in was hardly adequate, so he decided he'd better take his evidence and move to a safer place. He wasn't sure what he was going to do with the movies, but it seemed important to him to have some proof of Lucy's infidelity. He started filming as the happy couples made toasts. As he pointed the camera at Lucy and Harold, he saw them take a sip of their drinks and kiss. It didn't surprise him in the least that they opened their mouths wide and Lucy began to swallow Harold's saliva. His hand squeezed her breast, but she didn't move it away, just pulled him closer. Ron looked over at Jack and Sandy and almost dropped his phone. They were kissing too, even more passionately. Jack put his glass on the table and leaned over to his sister, cupping her face and immediately sliding his hand under her dress. Ron had the impression that it was only because they were in a public place. If Sandy was having sex with her own brother, no wonder she wasn't dating men. The surprises started coming faster and faster. Jack drained the best part of a pint of Guinness, which was a crime among serious drinkers. Sandy finished her gin and tonic. "We'll be off then," Jack announced. "Will an hour be enough?" "No problem," said Harold. "Make it an hour and a half if you want. Lucy and I will have dinner first. You two don't get many chances like this, so make the most of them." "Lucy and I have all night, maybe 2 nights," Lucy said, "if Ron has to stay in Norwich an extra day." "Well, Sandy and I have already eaten," Jack said. "But now we're so hungry for dessert. You said you booked 306 rooms, right?" "That's right. So how about you give me the key?" "Sorry, buddy, I was away." Ron could hardly believe it. Jack was about to fuck his own sister. Presumably this had been going on for years. Perhaps their opportunities were snatched here and there. An hour or so in a nice hotel would be a nice change for them. And to set it all up, Lucy must have known about it a long time ago. Lucy's "I would never do that to Lisa" was hypocritical, and worse. And how long had she been enjoying Harold's body and wearing sexy panties for him before they did it? If they slept regularly at Ron's house, it must have been because he was nearby. Harold might even have worked for the same company as her. Sex seemed to be an almost daily occurrence, at least during the week. He probably had her more often than Ron did. So the hotel room they'd rented was more for Jack and Sandy. Now he wanted to catch them in the act. But how? He stayed away while the cheating couple walked to dinner holding hands. An hour later, when they returned to the bar, he walked over to the 306. He turned on the video he had taken, and after a few tries managed to freeze on the perfect shot. It captured Jack and his sister in an incestuous embrace. Ron knocked on the door and shouted, "Urgent." He then brought the image of the phone up to the peephole. He heard Jack on the other side of the door pause and yell, "Jesus." When he opened the door, he was wearing a hotel robe and towel and his hair was wet. Ron pushed him hard, and he stumbled and fell onto the bed. His sister was nowhere to be seen, but the shower was already running. "This is a still from a video I took when you two lovebirds were at the bar," he told Jack. "I think your Lisa is going to have a heart attack from this. Before we start discussing it, keep in mind that I've already forwarded it to my computer, so there's no point in trying to intercept it from me." Jack, eyes wide, nodded. Then Sandy came in from the bathroom naked. Ron walked over to her and held the picture in front of her face. "Do you realize what this is?" "Yes," she stammered. "Then get on the bed and don't cover yourself, and you," he looked at Jack, "get dressed quickly." Jack remained standing there looking stupid and frightened. Ron demanded that he tell the whole sneaky story. Ron admitted that he and his sister had had sex back in college. Sandy had always been afraid to date. She had only had sex with her brother. Ron was right. They hadn't had many opportunities, so this one was special to them. It turned out that Harold worked at the same company as Lucy, and their affair had been going on for 6 months. He also found out that they slept at Ron's house 3 or 4 times a week, but never spent the whole night together. So this was something special for them, too. The arrangement came about on Wednesday when they were playing poker in one of the pubs. During a break between games, Jack got talking to Harold. The topic came up about sex, and they both began to admire the couple sitting at the table. It was obviously a husband and wife, but the woman was just titillating them. Jack expressed surprise that the wife was showing off her panties and stockings in public, and wondered why the husband didn't notice anything. But Harold explained he doesn't notice because most husbands settle down and don't pay attention. No offense if you're married. Perhaps your wife wouldn't flare up like that, but many wives are on the lookout. Now I have a married colleague more often than her old man. Really, does he know? Some men like to peek. No, he has no idea, poor guy. We sleep on his bed almost every weekday. She puts up an old blanket to keep the stains down. She makes such a mess that I have to change the linens regularly. Wow, what a whore. She's definitely a slut, insatiable. We can't sleep on the job, though we do manage to sneak off to the bathroom most of the time. Is she pretty? You tell me. Jack looked at Ron with embarrassment. Sorry, He showed me a picture of Lucy naked. He sent you a picture? No. Did it turn you on, Jack, seeing your friend, my wife, naked? Did she show everything? Jack admitted that he was turned on by the pictures. Yes, the pictures were pornographic, but he was careful to emphasize that it wasn't his fault. After that, a friendship developed between them. A few nights later, they met again and both got drunk. Jack said he knew Lucy and was shown more explicit photos. Harold said she was the best sex of his life. He admitted that he had strong feelings for Lucy and wanted to be with her all the time, but she refused to discuss divorce with her husband. Then Jack said Ron was lucky. He could sleep with Lucy every day, including weekends. It's not like that for me, he said. I don't get many opportunities to have sex with the love of my life. Why is she married too? No, I'm married. Life is hectic with work and a new baby. And my extramarital affairs have to be very careful. Why? I'm having sex with my sister. Wow, and it turns out I'm not such a pervert, Harold said. After sharing their deepest secrets, it was only natural to agree to help each other. This was the second time they had been able to get together. Not that they had ever had sex with the four of them. But for Jack and Sandy, it was the first time they were truly comfortable. Tonight, Lisa had taken the baby to her mother's house and would return home at 9 o'clock at night. Satisfied that he now had the full picture, Ron told Jack to go down to the bar and tell Harold that room 306 would be vacated in 15 minutes. Then he was to go home without revealing Ron's presence. If he did, it would have far-reaching consequences. When Ron left, he turned to Sandy. Lucy and Harold will pay a heavy price for what they did to me. Jack was supposed to be a friend. He should have told me what was going on. I suppose you want me to close my eyes and not say anything to Lisa. Yes, please don't tell her. She'll be devastated. Think of the child's future if they break up. You mean the way you thought about your nephew's future when you repeatedly slept with his father? At least Lucy's sex with Harold is just cheating. What you and Jack are doing is a crime. You could go to prison for years. She began to sob. Before you leave, I have time to pay you back a little. Jack has seen pictures of my naked wife, so I'll take a couple. Now you can go home without your underwear. Don't say anything to Lucy and Harold. Just leave. I'll be in touch, of course. So be ready to meet me when I say so. You'll give me everything you've ever given Jack and more. Ron realized that his marriage was rolling faster and faster, picking up speed and aiming for a fall. He looked around the room and his luck smiled. There was a screen door. It was richly embroidered and had 2 folds. There were wheels where the 3 sections connected to each other. It looked to be from the same Victorian era as the autographed leather-bound book. Ron unfolded it and bent it around him in the corner, having to duck slightly as the top was just below head level. Now all Ron needed was some kind of weapon. Harold was much larger than he was. Soon they burst into the room and Harold was carrying a steel ice bucket with the neck of a champagne bottle sticking out of it. The metal clip was missing and the cork was half out. He set it on the dressing table. Great, here's my weapon. He unzipped Lucy's dress and threw it on the chair. She wasn't wearing a bra and took off her shoes. What are you wearing for me today? He asked and stepped back to admire his conquest. Another thong. She pulled the thong off and tossed it aside. It flew over the screen and hit Ron in the face. He shoved it into his pocket where it joined Sandy's pocket. Just like that, the 2 sluts would go home in a breeze. Ron watched his wife lie down on the bed, her ass sticking out over the edge. Harold got down on his knees. God, I've been looking forward to this, Lucy said. Is it because we have a whole night this time? Partly. Besides, it's the first time we don't have to worry about my old man coming home and catching us. I can't say it bothered me much. You said I was bigger than him. You are in every way, but I still wouldn't want you to hurt him. Now that the decisive moment had come, Ron wondered if she would be as worried about Harold getting hurt because he was going to do it, and he was going to get his champagne out before it had time to properly chill. Ron just had to wait until they were fully engaged, and now he was already busy with her. All of Ron's nervousness faded away, and he calmly stepped out from behind the screen and walked over to the dressing table. He was sure it would work. Ron removed the bottle from its icy nest and walked up behind Harold. No one would hear him. Lucy had her thighs over his ears, and she would see Ron with his head thrown back in ecstasy. Your champagne, sir. Ron smashed the bottle over Harold's head before he could tear himself away from his revelry. He rolled onto his side and lowered himself smoothly to the floor. The loose cork popped out and the champagne splashed over him. Lucy, she sat upright shrieking. All in all, in Ron's opinion, it wasn't a bad result. He went back to the dresser and got a bucket of ice. When he returned to the unhappy lovers, Harold was recovering more than expected. Harold started to rise and Ron swung the bucket. It hit him in the eye socket and he lay down again. Ron pushed his soon-to-be ex-wife back onto the bed. She crossed her arms in front of her face as if expecting a blow, but all she got was a portion of ice right where she needed it most. She just lay there with Ron towering over her. "Don't come home. Ever. I'll send your things to your parents' house. If you're lucky, I won't piss all over your clothes. If you dare to show your face on our street again, I'll also send them videotapes of what you've been doing." Actually, Ron only had a short clip from the bar, but Lucy didn't know that, and no phone calls or texts. "Next time you need to contact me, do it through a lawyer. Go to live with your parents if they'll take you in. And if you think you're entitled to anything else from the house, write up a list and send it to your father." Later, Lucy never returned to the house. The cruelty shown to Harold made her wary. Her father came and took the last of her belongings, and he showed the list and said nothing. After treatment at the hospital, Harold recovered, but he was left with a small dent on his temple and suffered intermittent headaches. He told the medics the classic story of walking through the door. He was also wary of Ron and stayed away from Lucy. The dust settled and the drain emptied. After a few half measures, Lucy's mother gave in, and the divorce went through. Sandy answered a knock on the door. "You must have been expecting me," Ron said. "Take off your clothes and get on your knees. You have a date.